All right. All right, Matthew, I think we're on.
All right.
I think we're on. I think we're on. Hello, everybody. Today is the last day of February, February 28th. So it's our second conversation of Tuesday Talks, and we're continuing the conversation on relationships, right? We're extending it from the first conversation, and we're going into talk number 2. So Matt, we're going to talk all about relationships again today, and you brought up a huge point that you wanted to, as you take that sip of water. So talk to us, right?
No. Well, first and foremost, I hope the kids don't see me drinking this bottle of water because I yell at them for drinking bottles of water in the house. Literally, the clock is counting down. I'm trying to find the dog, get the dog inside the house. I'm like trying to make a peanut butter sandwich. I need a glass of water. I'm like, I'm grabbing a bottle of water. So anyway, enough of that. So it's interesting because, as a lot of the audience will know, I am much of an analytical person. I like to have kind of things in order. You're way more spiritual based, just kind of going with the flow of things. And as we were talking about this, you know, I said something to you and you started laughing. You said, wow, Matt, you want to just go with the flow of things? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I can be spiritual when I need to. When I think about relationships, and this really stemmed from this morning when we were in the inspiration call, and we just got off of a mastermind call as well. And I brought this point up in regards to what has my growth been studying this content and understanding, you know, the spirit, mind, body connection. And what it drove me to, and it just ties right into today as far as relationships are concerned, is it starts with us. It starts with me. It starts with you. And most of us we're a badge of honor of, I'm going to do things for others, and I'm going to show up for other people, and I'm going to serve. And it's a great, great, great concept. And we talk about this idea of when we're going to serve and when we're going to pour into others, we need to make sure that our cup is full, because as we pour out, we have to make sure that we're being as effective as possible and that we're serving ourselves first before we serve anybody else. And someone gave me the words of advice, you know, when we were on our little Sedona spiritual adventure of, Matt, your cup needs to be full all the time. And the only thing you're giving is what's overflowing from that cup. And that was a little bit of a mind shift there. And I said, wait a minute. So you're telling me don't let it get, you know, kind of almost on empty where I'm trying to pour out the last little bit, which I just gave everything to everyone, right? And so who does that serve? It really doesn't serve anyone. So this idea about relationships, there's so many different relationships you can have. And last couple of weeks ago, we talked more about the marriage and the, you know, that personal relationship, if you will. When I look at business relationships, when I look at the friendship relationships, and I look at the relationships with family, the first thing I stop and think about is, how do I feel? How do I feel about myself? Because the times when I don't have an interest in people, the times that I want to shy away from things, it's because I am not in a good vibration myself. And really, I'm not happy with myself. And that's where judgment comes into play as far as other people. That's when judgment of myself comes in. And we all know that when it comes to being the judge and the jury, like each of us individually can beat ourselves up like there's no tomorrow and slam that gavel down as hard as we possibly can. And we treat ourselves like we would never treat anyone else, right? Which is so important when it comes into this idea of relationships. So the first thing I just want to talk about is, how do you feel about yourself? Because if you're looking at life that you want to hide, or you're looking at, you know, you're hitting the snooze button and you don't want to get out of bed, there are major red flags going on there. So I think my point is that the relationship with ourselves really is where it needs to start. You know, one of the things that we study with Bob Proctor, he talks about, you know, getting up and kissing yourself, like kiss yourself. And I thought, what a funny thing, right? I'm going to wake up and kiss myself. Well, then I listened to Mel Robbins, and Mel Robbins writes this book called The High Five Habit, right? Which is an amazing thing. And literally going through this strange little thing in the morning And I don't do this on a consistent basis. So this is me talking to myself as far as, hey, Matt, like step up to the plate and do this again. Literally looking in the mirror. This was my little routine I'm going to get back to. A kiss on my right hand, a kiss on my left hand, give myself a hug. I love hugging. So give myself a nice big squeeze and then giving myself 2 high fives against the mirror. Now, yes, it puts fingerprints on the mirror, but that's okay. Because that's why God invented Windex and paper towels. We can just clean that off real quick. So how do you think about yourself? How do you treat yourself? And then that pulls me into this idea as far as the paradigms are concerned that we're talking about. People are like, what is this paradigm stuff? Like, you guys talk about it all the time. Paradigms are the series of mental habits that's stored in the subconscious that runs our lives. And what's so important within that paradigm is our self-image. And we can't outperform our self-image. And what I mean by that is if I look at myself here, I'll never outperform that. If I look at myself here, I'll never outperform that. So it's so critical to understand, how do we feel about ourselves? What's the relationship with what that we have with ourselves? Because if I don't have a good relationship with me, how can I have a good relationship with anyone?
Oh, said a lot.
Yeah, I did. I just want to keep going, but I'm going to stop and let you say something.
No, but it's so true. It is the relationship with yourself, and one of the things that I want to bring up that I think it might help a lot of people is really asking that question that a coach asked me that made me open up my mind, right? And that question was, who gets the best version of yourself? Right? Who gets the best version of yourself? And let that question sink in. And then ask yourself, is that who you want to receive the best version of yourself? Because when that question was asked to me, it definitely, I wanted my best version of myself to show up for me and my kids and my husband and my family and all of that, but it wasn't. And it was in that moment that I realized like I wanted something different. And this is the funniest thing, right? We always talk about like how scientists and theologists, they might have disagreed on so many things, but the one thing that they all agree upon is the fact that thoughts become things. We actually become what we think about most of the time. And it's amazing to me how many people, and I was in that same boat, right? How many times did we think about what we wanted to accomplish that weekend or what we wanted to accomplish in that day, like as far as groceries or a task that we had to get done? And how many times are we actually thinking about all of these things that we want to get done? And yet, I don't know about you, Matt, but I didn't put a lot of energy in what I wanted our marriage to look like. Right? What I wanted our relationship to look like, what I wanted, I had certain things about relationship with the kids and whatnot, and what I wanted that to look like, but not in the details. And it wasn't until I became intentional by asking those questions, right? I became much more intentional on who did I want to receive the best version of me? What did I want my marriage to look like? What do I want my relationship with my kids to look like? And the more that I got clarity on that, the more that it became easy for my body to take action, because our body is just an instrument of our mind. It's wild to me that we're now entering the 3rd month of 2023. And I set an intention for the beginning of this year that I was going to focus on our marriage and, our family relationship. Matt, how many opportunities are we having to pour back into ourselves and our family?
Well, you really kicked it off pretty hardcore with my birthday weekend, and that really, what an incredible experience as far as understanding and pulling different layers, back from each other after, being married for 17 going on 18 years. And having that feeling, I think we said this before, of, kind of right back into that honeymoon phase. And what I find fascinating when you talk about thoughts becoming things, and this is not just that, we're kind of back to the marriage, if you will, which is okay. But this pertains to any relationship. What do you want it to look like? And that question is such a simple but grandioso compass in life. And if we constantly stop and ask, is this what I want? If the answer is yes, then we keep going in that direction. And if the answer is no, don't get beat up. Don't spend a lot of time. Don't curl under the blanket and say, what's going on here? acknowledge there's contrast coming up for a reason. This is showing me what I don't want and helps me to move back into alignment with what I want. So what I find fascinating is a couple of years ago, you would set an intention and you used a tool called a life script. And you set a different intention about family as far as your relationship with the girls. And what it stemmed from was our oldest daughter, Yudi, wasn't really telling us a lot of things. And I know that's something that I had always felt, growing up, I always thought, my mom's my best friend. And then as I got older and as the generations switched a little bit, you had parents living through their kids. And, now all of a sudden best friends is like, yeah, I want to go out and party with my kids. That's okay, right? No judgment on that. However, I think there's a line that we want to have there. And so my best friend relationship that I had with my mom was the one that I felt that I could tell her anything and not have judgment. And that was so powerful for me. Like, what an amazing gift that my mother gave to us as kids of the unconditional love of, and a lot of people do know this. I was, raised by my mother, my grandmother, my sister. And my grandmother would come in, my mother would want to punish us. And my grandmother would come in, but oh, no, that's okay. They're just kids that, you can't punish them. So my mother really, we weren't punished. My mother really, we weren't, what is that feedback? So anyway, so it was funny because I was raised without discipline, but I was raised with a high level of respect of not wanting to let my mother down and wanting to keep that open line of communication. So the idea of, and I'll tie it back into with the kids, is I always wanted that openness with the kids. I wanted them to feel comfortable to come talk to us about anything. And as a dad to girls, I wanted to step up to the plate and say, like, let's have the talk, because I wanted it to come from I think it's very powerful that a father can communicate to their daughter everything and anything, even that conversation. I don't know why I'm saying it that way, because we're all adults here and mostly there's not little kids watching this, but the birds and the bees conversation. And that could be another episode as far as how that conversation went down and how that all happened. That's a funny thing. But going back to this idea of you created what you wanted the relationship to be, as far as writing out every day that you had open lines of communication with the kids, that you had open lines of communication with me. And I find it really funny because even about a month ago, I'm going to pull back the curtain here, which is okay. Even a month ago, something happened and I picked something up off the bathroom floor and I threw it in the trash. And all of a sudden you chuckled and I said, what's that? And you said, it's working. And I was like, oh my gosh, Yun is willing to the universe. I'm going to pick things up off the ground. Right. So anyway, that is something, what's the little tip of today? Start to use your imagination. When you're in a relationship, whether it's a business, it's a personal, it's romantic, family, what is it that you want? Create that story in your mind. And when you get a crystal clear understanding of what that is, you get emotionally involved with it, charge it with the sensory factors. We know this concept of law of cause and effect. What is going out is coming back to us. So, and we also know there's no such thing as a good or a bad. So why don't we put the rosy glasses on, label everything as good, and expect the great out of everything that we do and out of every relationship that we're involved.
So powerful. And it's such a great lead into exactly what I wanted to talk about, in the sense of, our physical reality is just an expression of our underlying belief system. And everything that exists on this planet is all energy. It's all energy, right? Which is vibration, which is frequency. So what's amazing is that for all the listeners out there, pay attention to the patterns that show up, right? And what I mean by that, when I hear people that they don't trust others, or they have this feeling like they can't trust their partner, they can't trust their children, they can't trust, it really boils down to they're not trusting themselves. There's a gap within them that keeps showing up, right? When we continuously get triggered by family members, or extension, any relationships that we have, pay attention to what keeps getting triggered, because what it is the universe really giving us the awareness, or like knocking on our door, like, hey, right? There's an internal gap within you that if we close that gap, all of a sudden everything shifts around us. And so what do I mean by that? I mean that you will attract better relationships, or the current relationships you currently have will just elevate to another level. And it's funny that you bring that up about like the thing. I'll remember those times where it's funny now looking back, because things that you did drove me freaking crazy. Some of these little things, right? Little things like not picking things up or not putting things away, like all of these little things. And it's so wild because it is direct correlation as to how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling good, I don't notice those things. When I'm not feeling good, I notice all of those things and more. And yet the more that I focused on what it is that I desired and what it is that what type of relationships that I want, then those are the things that came into my life. Those are the things that we were creating together. It's so simple and easy, but it takes commitment and consistency.
I'm thinking about that idea as far as attraction, right? And as far as energy and the exchange of energy. And it's interesting because, like you said, when you're in a great mood, you don't notice those things. And when you have that great attitude, it's one of the, I now label myself, right? Someone made a comment and I said, yeah, I said, I'm one of those people. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm one of those shiny, happy people holding hands. Right. And so my attitude, we understand that there's this idea of universal law, that this is universal laws is God's operandus. Like, these are the rules that are in place that once we're able to understand them, we work within them. Right. And a lot of people just don't understand what it's all about, or they say this is hocus pocus. Well, my thought around that is, even if, let's just say, oh, this is a bunch of BS. Right. And no, you don't believe thoughts become things, and you don't believe, a lot of this. What does it look like to walk around seeing that everything is good and seeing the beauty in everything, versus walking around seeing the negativity in everything, seeing the pain and suffering of everything? What are the feelings there? Like, even as I describe those two situations, the second one, like my stomach doesn't feel good thinking about all that negativity. And, there's so many people that are glued to the television, glued to everyone else's opinion of what's wrong in the world, and don't understand that we're in a situation that we create everything, whether we want it or not. And you have that quote that, that you love to talk about: in the absence of focusing on what we want, what we don't want naturally shows up. And then we feel victimized and we feel, why is this happening to me? So when you're in that space, birds of a feather flock together. When you're in a great high flying, vibration, and you feel great about things, you're going to be around those same people. People are going to notice that. The people that are in a low vibration, and I laugh about this because when you were team leader, someone had given a comment of like, she's just way too positive for me. Okay, then stay with all the negative people, stay in a world that's doom and gloom, stay focused to the television, stay focused that everything goes wrong. And guess what's going to happen? You nailed it every single time. It's going to go that way. So it's so important. Going back to this idea of relationships, there is a phrase that you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So that's another thing, is having that level of awareness, having that understanding of, when I go into a conversation or the phone rings and I see a name, do I get excited about that? Is my vibration rising? Or all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, it's that person. And how many times do we have, oh my God, it's that person, that we stay in that relationship and we stay in that negative mindset because we see the name. I'll just bring up Kevin. We see Kevin, like, oh God, there's Kevin. My vibration goes down. My feelings go down. That relationship with Kevin probably isn't that positive to me. So I can do a couple things. I can take that, and here's another interesting concept. I can take the situation with Kevin and I can hold it in the best light possible and look to create that and pour my loving energy to Kevin. Or I can sink into this and get lower and lower and lower. And every time Kevin comes into mind, I'm getting affected by Kevin. And as we talked about today, there's really two things that we can control. It's what we think about and what our attitudes are. That's it. That's it. Your mission of simple and easy is simple and easy. And that is where all your relationships, your ability to create amazing relationships, Jan, come out of that. Because you've always, and this is so important, and how to have great relationships, you have to have an interest in other people. And when you don't have an interest in other people, it's because you're not interested in yourself and you're not happy with yourself. You know, I love that just brought up Earl Nightingale. There's a book called The Strangest Secret. And it talks about, you know, life is boring to boring people. Life isn't exciting to exciting people. There was a little story that I forget what it is, and I'll paraphrase it real quick. But you tell this story. I don't know if it's a guru or something, but there's a guy on the side of the road, and there's someone that's coming to the town, and the guy says, the traveler says, I'm about to go into this next town. The one I was just in, the people were awful. They were, they weren't welcoming. It was just a bad place to be. What is this place like? And the guy said, you know what? I think you should move on because you're going to find all that here. Mm-hmm. And the traveler just moves on. Well, next person comes up and he says, hey, I'm coming to this new town and I want to know what it's all about. And the guy says, well, tell me about the last town you just came from. Oh, it was amazing. It was so exciting. And the people were so friendly. The people were so outgoing. And the guy said, you should stop in this town because that's exactly what you're going to find here. So whatever you expect and whatever you're putting out there and what you think is going to happen, it's going to happen. So if you're in a relationship that you're not happy with, don't flush it down the toilet. Make a change with it. Change how you think about it. Change how you feel about it. Because when you change what you think about that, and you feel that it's going to be amazing, it's going to be great, we know the body is just an instrument of the mind. And like you had said earlier, you got into action because you're excited. You're going to accelerate. When you get into fear and you get into procrastination, not you, but any of us, it just stacks us and we just start to get lower and lower and lower. Then the judgment comes in. Am I worth it? Do I deserve this? I don't deserve to be in this group with these people. Here they are. Here I am. It's not a match. So this idea, I just was on this, we were both just on this call, and this idea of doing the work came up. And this conversation keeps coming up about doing the work. What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean to you, Jan? When you say do the work, what does that mean?
Get to know thyself. That's really it, right? Again, decisions and habits create your future. So make a decision that you're curious to learn more your gifts are inside of you, and then do the work on a consistent basis so that you're discovering more of you. And it's amazing because as you speak, I want people to kind of think about this. Anytime people enter a brand new relationship, for the most part, they're excited. They see all the good. They get so excited, right? And that's that whole infatuation phase, right? Where everything's just so perfect and you're just so excited to meet that person again, whether it's a friend or, what do you call it? Like a more deeper of a relationship, if you will. And then if you find yourself that thing fizzles down and then all of a sudden you start noticing all the bad characteristics, think about what's happening to your focus in your mind. At the very beginning, because you're looking for something outside of you to make you feel good, right? You're looking for something outside of you to make you feel good. So then all of a sudden you notice all these good things that this new person's doing to make you feel good. And you start feeling good. And then all of a sudden your programming takes over. And that autopilot comes in and all of a sudden you start literally finding all the fault with that person or situation. Anything. And that's where I go back to is so important to be on this journey of self-discovery of who you are and what you are, and really learn about your paradigms. People right now are in massive high anxiety, and the reason why is information overload. It literally is information overload. We've been in a consumption world for way too long, and people's brains are about to explode and they're in high anxiety. You don't need to know everything at all. What you need to do is you need to know you and know the paradigms that are operating. That's it. And once you go down that road doing the work, everything else is simple. So simple. Because the real secret is, you hear me say this all the time because I love this. The real secret is we are magical beings on a magical planet where thoughts become things. Everything on this entire planet is energy, which is vibration, which is frequency. It's all in how we feel. And the way we feel is dictated by the thoughts, especially those autopilot thoughts that have been swarming in our mind. And so people don't even realize that they're loving the miserable feeling because we're so used to feeling miserable for so long that we don't even realize that that's the thing that's operating us. And that's what I really believe that real awakening is. Like, wake up, let's pay attention to what's happening in our conscious mind, become more consciously aware so that we're controlling more of our thoughts that are serving us for our higher good, that allows us to create and attract what we really put here for.
Beautifully said. I love it. So last couple minutes, hit me with two things. What are some takeaways as far as relationships?
Just like you,
high level, go small, go direct. Give me two things. How do successful relationships?
well, really, just first and foremost, like you said, look inside, right? It all starts within. Giving yourself permission to ask yourself, what's that relationship with you like? Right? What do you want that to look like? And the second, give yourself permission to allow yourself to dream about every relationship that you really want to have and the life that you want to have. Like, spend energy into that. Because again, it's our subconscious that plays out our reality, right? 95% of our daily existence is all habitual thinking. So what we want to do is we want to get what we really desire into our subconscious, because our subconscious does not know the difference between experienced reality or imagined reality. All it knows is what we're more emotionally involved with. That's it. So for me, it's very simple. Keep it simple and easy, right? Focus inward and give yourself permission to dream and imagine. And just like you said, environment is everything, right? Who are you surrounded by? Are the people that you surround by actually empower you to be the best version of yourself? Or do they suppress you? Does it support you towards your goals, or does it actually hurt you so that it prevents you from reaching your goals? Very simple. How about you, Matt? Two things.
Yeah, I think the first one is understanding how you're showing up. You know, if you want to be, as far as a great business partner, a great friend, a great spouse, how are you showing up? Right? Because how you show up is how that, that other person, there's that mirror effect. So if I want more love, I want more hugs, I want more business, I need to put that out there, and I'm going to push that out first, knowing that that's going to come back in return. The other thing for me is I'm always a big fan of modeling. And I'm not just saying because I'm so good looking and I do the catwalk, modeling in the sense that, yeah, bad dad joke, modeling in the sense of looking around to see if I don't know what a business relationship is, or I've never been in a marriage, or I've never been a dad, I want to look to those people that have those great characteristics and look to emulate that characteristic. So for me, it's looking to see, who are the people in that space that are doing it at a high level. And it sounds funny because usually it's like, oh, I'm going to drive the sales, I'm going to do this, I'm going to close the contracts. Who is an amazing business partner? Who's an amazing friend? Who's an amazing brother, sister, father, mother? Tap into those people. You don't have to, that's another tool. You don't have to be them. You're just looking to look to see what that characteristic is. How do they develop that? Replicate, all right. what I'm gonna say it right in my
Off
mind.
and duplicate.
Thank you very much. Rip off and duplicate how that person operates and program yourself to do that. Again, it's simple and easy.
Love it. So that reaches the top of the hour. I hope you guys found some value in this. I mean, seriously, keep it light and fun, but just know this is the most important message that I would want people to hear. You are worth it. You are worth it to live your best version of yourself. You are worth it to actually receive all the things that you desire. And it's very simple to be, do, and have anything and everything that you want. It's literally living in harmony with the laws of the universe and understanding thyself. So with that, thank you for listening. I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.